Hi everyone, so this video is going to be a nude eyeshadow palette comparison video between 3 different nude palettes that I own, 2 of which are quite accessible in Australia and 1 is very hard to get, and that's the reason why I'm making this video. I'm also from my Aussie subscribers, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to be swatching it, reviewing, kind of giving an overview of the packaging and the cost of each palette. So let's get started. The first is obviously the Urban Decay Naked palette, and the packaging does look rather fancy and expensive. It's got the velvet finish exterior in brown, chocolate brown. Then you've got the Naked written in a gold colour. It's quite a thick palette, so it is quite deep. It's also quite wide. Inside you do get a mirror, and you also get a full-size brush inside this palette with 12 shades that are all individually named. This palette I hadn't been able to find in Australia, so I bought this whilst I was overseas, and I will include the price down here for you guys. I'll do that for each of these palettes. So this is Urban Decay's Naked palette. The next palette is by a brand called Chi Chi, which is available in Maya, and I think it might be David Jones, a couple of other places, but predominantly Maya is where I buy it from. And this is their Glamorous Nudes palette. So straight away you can see the packaging isn't as fancy as the Urban Decay, but it does have a clear lid, which I rather like because straight away you can see the colours that are inside, so you know what you're going for. You do get 12 shades as you do in the Urban Decay palette, but in this case they are not individually named or numbered, so the palette is just as it is there. You do get an applicator, you get 2, but they're just kind of the fluffy foam applicators, which I don't really like using. But that is the Chi Chi Glamorous Nudes palette. And the last palette is Savvy by DB Eyes of the Artist Nudes Eyeshadow Palette. So as you can see straight away, again, the packaging isn't as fancy as Urban Decay. This is a cardboard packaging with a glossy finish and just sort of a basic pastel-y kind of print on the front. You do get the magnetic closure, which is actually quite strong, which is good. It is a lot thinner, so it's easier to travel with than the Urban Decay. Inside you do get a mirror, but in this case you don't get 12 shades, you get 10 shades. And the applicator again is just the foam tip applicator. So that is the Savvy by DB Nude Eyeshadow Palette. So next is swatches. So as you can see, the top 2 are both fairly similar in their colour range, but the bottom one, which is the Savvy palette, does have some quite different shades, so I'll go through that one on its own. I do want to do a comparison between the Chi Chi and the Urban Decay palettes to share my thoughts overall. So we've got Virgin from Urban Decay. It is different to the Chi Chi palette. Both are very nice, very smooth to apply, but the Chi Chi palette is slightly more pink, so I probably wouldn't consider this a dupe for the palette. Next is Sin from Urban Decay. The colour from the Chi Chi palette again applied really nicely and smoothly. It's also a shimmery, really buttery formula, but it is a bit darker than the Urban Decay colour. Third one across is Naked from Urban Decay. The colour match in the Chi Chi palette is quite similar and would be a fairly reasonable dupe. Both applied not perfectly, both were a bit patchy, but are very similar shades. Then we've got Sidecar from Urban Decay. The comparison is a little bit more yellow, slightly warmer in the Chi Chi palette, but again both a very similar finish and fairly close, but I wouldn't call this one a dupe. Then we have Buck from Urban Decay. The Chi Chi colour is a pretty close match, maybe a little bit warmer than the Urban Decay, but I'd say that's a reasonable dupe. Then you've got Half Baked. It's a really lovely colour. I like the golden tone in this. The Chi Chi colour is a little bit more orange, so it's not as yellow as the Urban Decay, but they are quite nice colours. Definitely not dupes, but both apply very lovely, very buttery and smooth. The next one across is Smog. The Chi Chi match for this is pretty much spot on. They almost look identical to the eye. Apply fantastically, really smooth, really lovely. Next is the same with Dark Horse from Urban Decay. The Chi Chi is pretty much a spot-on match for finish and colour. Then you've got Toasted from Urban Decay. The actual Chi Chi one I kind of prefer over Toasted because it's a little bit more rosy gold, but it still would be a reasonable alternative. Probably not a dupe though. Next is Hustle from Urban Decay. The Chi Chi colour is pretty much spot on again. I actually prefer the Chi Chi colour. I got a lot less fallout with this one than I did with the Urban Decay. And same goes for Creep with Urban Decay. I got a lot of fallout for this one, and the Chi Chi colour I much prefer. It doesn't have the white silvery glittery flecks through it, it's just a shimmer. But the colour wise, both of these are pretty spot on to each other. The last one being Gunmetal from Urban Decay doesn't match the last one in Chi Chi, and I do prefer Gunmetal because this one from Chi Chi did have a lot of fallout, so I do prefer the Urban Decay. Overall though, they're both very lovely palettes. I was pleasantly surprised with the quality of the Chi Chi palette, considering it's less than half the cost of the Urban Decay Naked palette. The eyeshadows are very easy to blend, very smooth and creamy and buttery. A couple of them not so much, so the third one across and the fifth one across, both being the matte shades, they didn't apply as well as the shimmery shades. With the Savvy by DB, it's a completely different kind of colour range. As you can see, there are completely different colours. So you've got a really, really light matte shade, a more yellowy, beige, creamy shimmer shade, quite a peach shade here with a matte finish. And this is where you start getting into some of the possible dupes, is this section here. So you've got the fourth shade along is a golden rose toned shade, which is similar to this shade down here, Toasted. That is similar to that. Moving along, you've got this dark brown chocolatey shade, which I would say is probably similar to Smog, and fairly close, that you could probably call all three of these dupes for one another. This shade here is, again, it's similar to Smog, a bit more golden, but I think a mixture of these two would actually work quite well. The next one is very similar to Dark Horse and the Chi Chi alternative, and I'd be fairly confident to say they're dupes. Then you have one that is similar to Hustle, another one that's similar to Creep, and then just a really dark colour on the end, which is sort of similar to Creep, but you'd want to get a mixture of both of those. So, not too bad. The Savvy by DB palette, the matte shades again were a little underwhelming, but the shimmer shades I was very impressed with, particularly these three here. They applied really well, very pigmented, and not much fallout. And so that is all of the swatches there. So that's it for the comparison. My overall thoughts are that I was pleasantly surprised with the Chi Chi palette. I think if you're going to go for a dupe and you wanted the Urban Decay palette but don't want to spend that much, the Chi Chi palette was definitely pleasantly surprising. The quality of the eyeshadows were very nice, very buttery and smooth. I wasn't expecting that. Even with some of the Savvy colours, I must admit I wasn't expecting much at all considering the price, but they did surprise me. I do like, I think 5 out of the 10. Very nice texture, very nice to use and pretty close matches to the Urban Decay. But still, I think the winner is the Chi Chi palette. It just is very close and close enough to the Urban Decay, but a lot cheaper, and if you're looking for that kind of colour range, I'd go with the Chi Chi. They're still lovely colours, lovely and smooth, great to apply, and yeah, as you can see, it's fairly close to the Urban Decay. What I will be doing is including one of the Chi Chi palettes, the Glamorous Nudes palette, in an upcoming giveaway, more towards Christmas time. So if you are interested in getting your hands on a nude palette from Chi Chi and you're not in Australia and can't get it yourself, keep your eyes out for that because it will be coming up later on in this year. If you've got any questions or if you want any specific details on any of these colours, please let me know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you've got any requests for any other comparison videos, please leave your comments down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and don't forget to keep your eyes out for that giveaway coming up later in the year, more towards Christmas time. I hope you guys enjoy it again, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!